Okay, so now, welcome to J115, Introduction to Corrections. And so, thank you for coming out, Jacob. I will be going over details of what the expectations are for the quarter. And so I'm going to just go right ahead and just start right in. So let's get right in. Let me share my screen. Okay, and so first of all, you can see a few announcements that I have provided already. You should, if you've seen those, this explains to you the writing process and everything that you need to do to be successful in writing if you're having problems. And then it also provides for you some assistance if you have problems with the APA. APA is the format that we use for citing sources that you discover from your research, primarily dealing with the citations in the body of the paper and references at the end, and you'll be using that quite a bit. And then you had a welcome announcement, which I sent out, and all the expectations and things. If you follow these should help you pretty well, but we're going to cover some of these things tonight. Telling you that our live lectures are every other Wednesday, starting next week, and they'll run about an hour or so, and we're going to discuss issues. We may use PowerPoint sometimes, and then of course the link is still the same. And then I tell you some other things in here as well. And so then we come to, let's close that down, and the announcement. Every week you will receive an announcement, and it tells you the topic that we're covering. It tells you the sections of the text to cover, and it also tells you an activity. There's activity that you'll see that comes in. These aren't graded, but these are things that will help you. Tonight is an introduction to the correction system and a historical perspective. And then I also provide for you details, again, reminding you about our lecture that starts next week. And then your discussion posts. Now, your discussion posts are normally due on Tuesday nights by 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time, but because of the holiday, you should have received an email from me to this effect telling you that your initial discussion post is due tonight by 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time, and that your reply post is due at the regular time, which is every Saturday, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. So these are two pretty simple assignments that you need to do, and you'll see the point system given in a few minutes. Finally, we have a written assignment, elements of the correction system, and you have a quiz. And then they're due Sunday night, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then I'm going to introduce you to the course project. So you're going to review the introduction this week, and I'm going to go over that with you in just a few minutes. And then, of course, tells you about the open house. And then you will see this quite frequently. Let's start strong and finish strong. And then you'll learn that my motto is adversity is the springboard of success. I will be sharing with you at the end why that is my motto, why I am so adamant in terms of teaching this class and all criminal justice classes. So now, with no further ado, let's get into taking a look at the syllabus. The syllabus tells you, now this right here, this language here is incorrect. I'm going to have to correct that. and I don't know. I know it happened. I copied it from a wrong source, but it reminds you that you're to conduct research. Now, disregard the statement week 4 written assignment hostage. That applies to another class. But what does apply to is it means that the sole source of your papers cannot be the textbook. So don't just give me a citation or reference of the textbook. You'll lose 2 points because the idea is for you to conduct research. And again, I'm going to fix the exact language on that, but you must research for all written assignments. That's the key. And you should also use APA format, which means citations in the body and references at the end. Students oftentimes will give me one or the other, and you will still end up losing points. You will see that based on the written assignment rubric that I didn't send it to you, but I will be sending it to you as well. And I'm going to share it with you tonight. Okay. So now this also gives you who I am, my phone number, my email address. You'll also discover when you get that welcome email that I sent you that I have my personal email in there also. Okay. Now, our text is corrections, and you should have that in your digital section of the classroom. You should be able to access that textbook. And then you'll see each week, as I said, the reading resources. Now, and so the course is 11 weeks, and this just basically just tells you to complete your assignments in a timely fashion. It says students are required to check the course announcements at least 3 times a week. I would recommend checking them daily. Because sometimes there are some things that happen. We're going to go over the course calendar in a few minutes. Now, as far as discussion posts are concerned, students always ask me about that. And each week, because we don't get together physically, the discussion posts are used for you to communicate with each other. Now, each week that contains a discussion forum, you're expected to post a thoughtful, detailed response. Yes or no, or I agree or disagree is not adequate, and you will lose points. And I already told you the date that you post those as well. And then you should see what your classmates have posted. Now, you're only required to post 1 reply post. However, I do recommend that you take a few minutes and respond to as many of your classmates as possible, because what it does, it opens up interaction between you. And remember to exercise courtesy when responding to other person's posts. People have a right to their opinions and positions. I haven't had too many. I think I have one student who had some foul language in one of his posts, and once I reprimanded him about that, he corrected that. We're not going to have those kinds of things. Okay. And then this tells you what your post due dates are. I've already told you that. And generally it says Tuesday midnight, which is basically 11:59 p.m. And then Saturday night for the reply post, except during week 11, which when we come to that, we'll go over that. And then your written assignment and exams are due on Sundays at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then finally, the last day of class for the week 11. And then this tells you the things that are involved here: your readings, your discussions, your written assignments. In the written assignments, you perform research. And I remember I keep saying that word, research, on a particular topic and report back on your findings. That's what you end up doing actually in your written papers. Quizzes, 10 multiple choice questions, and then course project, which we're going to discuss in just a few minutes there. Okay. And then your final exam will consist of 50 multiple choice questions. and the final is comprehensive. So again, this is a reminder that, oh, okay, here it is. It's properly down here written. That you are required to conduct research. Oh, no, that's wrong. Still for week 4. I got to correct this again. This is the same thing that's at the top. So I'm going to correct that one as well. But the bottom line is that you must conduct some research. So now let's look at what we got here. Your discussions constitute a total of 220 points because you have 10 points for each week. And that the 10 points consist of 5 for your initial post, 5 for your discussion post, or 27.5%. So it's very important to do those because it's over a quarter of your grade. Then your written assignments constitute the biggest portion, 305 points, or 38.1. So you want to make sure you follow the instructions of your written assignments. And I'm going to give you, again, a rubric. We're going to talk about that. And then you have 185 points, or 23.1 for your course project, which I'll go over in just a few minutes. Your quizzes, 50 points, and then your final exam, 40 points. Now, you might look at that and say, wow, final exam, that's a small percentage. Yeah, but when it balances out, the key thing is you want to get 100%, or you want to get 800 points. You don't want to get 760 points, because then your grade will not be up where you want to be. You'll see when you get to it. But these are the things to expect for the quarter. And again, I'm going to elaborate on them in a minute. Now, let's get to this. My job is to get you on this side. A minus, B plus, B minus. That is where I want you to end up. I prefer you to end up in the top 2, but if worse comes to worse, in the bottom of these, B plus, B, or B minus. I always tell students, never ask me the question of what it takes to get a C in my class. I will never answer that question for you because I'm not going to tell you how to get a C. I'm going to tell you that if you do the assignments correctly, follow all of the requirements of the assignment, satisfy the requirements, and follow the directions very clear, you will end up here in A or in B. Here, this is an average. But here's what I want to tell you. Don't get accustomed to being in this position. I went to college years ago, graduated in 1975 with a bachelor's in political science, and then I wanted to go to law school. Well, in order for me to get into law school, I had to perform very well in undergrad school. And my grades were so high that I was able to get accepted into a very good law school. And because I was accepted in that law school, I was able to be successful as a lawyer and then have a successful legal career and do some other things as well, and now teach. The point of the matter is, if I was a C student, I wouldn't have been able to achieve that. So the key is that when we start to look for people to begin to work or look to hire people, the question is, do you want the C student or you want the A and B student? I won't answer that. That's hypothetically answered, and you already know the answer to that question. So the bottom line is, in the job market the way it is today, the best and the brightest are the ones who excel. So I get you into that habit, okay? Now, I will be, during the course of this quarter, responding to all course messages. It says within 48 hours. I don't do that. I usually respond within 24 hours or less than that because of the fact that I make sure that my students communicated with pretty fast. And I will go back in a few minutes and tell you the rules on communicating with me, but you should already know those from the course start. I'll show it to you in a minute. My information is on the syllabus, and then it says I have to conduct one synchronous learning session. Now, here's the deal. That is taking place right now as we speak. Now, the requirement for me as an instructor is to do one live lecture. And what I'm doing now, that could be it for the 11 weeks. Well, I have decided that that's not what I'm going to do. I've decided that I'm going to interact with my students more. Therefore, you're going to have 5 actual lectures after this that you will have me. I used to do lectures every week, but because of the very reason that right here there's one student attending, I decided that that wasn't a good idea, so I cut it down to every 2 weeks. And so I'm not going to cut it any further. I was going to do it every 3 weeks, but every 2 weeks is really what it takes a lot of times for students to understand some of the issues and questions that take place that from just your reading. In other words, I don't want to just leave you out there with a screen that you look at. I want you to be able to have almost the same kind of thing you'd have as if we were face-to-face in a classroom, yet utilizing this system that we have of live lectures gives you an opportunity to interact with me in a way where you could see me and you can hear me at the same time and you can ask questions. Sure, you can do that on the phone, but and then sometimes people try to text and email. It never works. Trying to go back and forth with text and emails, you lose things. So the bottom line is that I have elected to go beyond that, and I will continue doing that with my students because I'm a very hands-on professor when it comes to students, and that I do actively facilitate class discussions. You'll see me responding to discussion posts throughout the quarter. And so now, when communicating with me, please include your first as well, last name, as well as the course title. You don't have to have the number. The reason is because I teach 5 classes. And so our students will send me their names, and I won't know what class that you're in, so I won't know how to address your question. So should you use course messaging? You should use course messaging tools to communicate with me. Well, as I have said before, and I'll say it again, you don't just have to use those. And I'm going to go over that in just a few minutes. Show something to you. Now, one of my jobs is, and this little bell gets on my nerves here, is to share with you some transferable skills. We evaluate our teaching on making sure that in every single class that is taught here at Rasmussen College, that you are exposed to what we call transferable skills. And the first one is communication. Very critical course in criminal justice. I teach courses on communication, written and oral communication in criminal justice. I tell you that communication is key, as you probably could discern in our role. Critical thinking. We must be able to think on our feet. We must be able to analyze and provide information, not just give answers to questions, but give support to back us up, give some information such as sources that have dealt with the issues. We as lawyers, we oftentimes use what we call cases or case citations of previous cases, rules of law, statutes, codes. And so in your papers, you're going to be writing about different things that concern the issue of corrections, and you're going to not just provide me information, but you're going to provide your position on it. You're going to provide what you feel, what you discovered, and you're going to respond to questions that are actually asked in the written assignment as well. Digital fluency. Everything's digital now. I'm 66 years old. When I started out and when I went through college and law school, we didn't have laptops. We didn't have computers. We used paper. But when I ended up even went back to school when I was 53 in 2003 for an MBA or fourth degree, I ended up being exposed to laptops and computers and things like that. However, what I'm saying to you is that when I first came to Rasmussen in 2011 to teach, I was teaching residentially. Then they told me we were going to be teaching online. So I had to go back and learn the modes and methods of utilizing the resources of online classes and things of that nature. I had to learn a lot about the fact that the internet was involved. And then when it comes to digital fluency, we're using technology now, even when our textbooks. When I was in school, I used to have these heavy books that I used to carry around. Well, now you don't have to do that because your books, for the most part, are digital. And they're in your classroom, and you can carry them around on your laptop. You can carry them around on your cell phone. I've got this cell phone right here in my hand. I'm showing it to you. It's an Edge 7, and it actually has all kinds of things. I can actually access my books. I can access my lectures. I can actually lecture you from my phone. I can grade my papers from my phone. It's all about digital fluency. So what am I saying? In society today, we want to transfer that skill out to the real world because that's how you're going to operate now. Diversity. You're going to meet people from all backgrounds. You're going to interact with people from all ethnic groups, religious groups, people who are of different persuasions than you are, but you're going to have to respect them for who they are. You're going to have to learn to communicate and to work with people like that. And so we teach you that in school to be able to respect the positions of others, even if it's not your own. And then teamwork. Your teamwork, you're going to be working in a team sometimes. You're going to find yourself working on projects, not in this class, but you're going to find in the future you're going to be working on team projects, and you're going to need each other to work and utilize those things. I would do some teamwork in some of these lectures if I had enough students to attend, but I have done all kinds of things to try to get students to attend. And so what I've elected to do was just to save them, and then some students elect to just not come because you're not required by grade to come, and I give them the archive. There are students who don't even look at the archive, and then they'll send me questions and ask me, and I'll refer them and says, no, go back and look at the archive. I've already answered that question for you. The point of the matter is we're working together as a team, professor and student, to try to be successful. That's how you're going to work in the real world. You're going to have different agencies that you work with. You're going to have different parts. You're going to have detectives. You're going to have police officers. As a corrections officer, you're going to have different levels. I've had a number of students when I taught corrections before who have risen all the way up to major, or there's a young lady I know, she's often running a facility in the state of Illinois Department of Corrections, and Stateville Prison, which is in Joliet, which is not far from us, and she's been a student of mine. But there are many people that she has to work with. She doesn't do the job all by herself, and you're not going to be the Lone Ranger. You're going to be working with others. And then we get to the point of ethics. Lord knows we need ethics very seriously in our criminal justice field. In corrections, we're going to discuss some issues of ethics that are going to be involved. I've had a few cases where I've represented a few correction guards who actually are corrections officers. It was called correction guards, then not correction officers, that were involved with some activities that caused them to lose their jobs and pensions, and one of them actually went to jail for it, but we'll talk about that. But ethics are very important. I started thinking in terms of ethics in this classroom. For example, if you tell me there's some problem that you're having, and there's students who says, well, I can give you a note from the doctor to prove that I had this happen to me and that happened. I said, you're not in high school. You're not in grammar school. This is not compulsory education. You're spending money for it. You're going to have to tell me the truth. If you're really having a problem, then let's address that problem. And let's get to it early and not wait so long for it to happen that you didn't want to reach out. You tried to figure out other ways. Let me know. I work with students all the time. But anyway, ethical, I expect you to tell me the truth when things are happening. Students say, well, something happened with my laptop. I said, well, okay, we'll work that out. But if it tends to be a pattern, then I begin to say, I can't keep doing that. And then professional responsibility. There are going to be rules and regulations, of course, as a correction officer and working in the field of corrections that you're going to have to deal with and you're going to have to abide by. And then information literacy, being able to understand things are out there. As I said, you're going to be doing research. And by the way, since I'm talking about research, one of the sources that I never want you to use as a reference or a citation in my classes, any of them, is Wikipedia. Wikipedia is very unreliable. It is not a source that should be used in academia. And actually, I wouldn't rely on anything because it is a word-based source, which means a person can go in and change it, and then another person can come behind them and change it as well. So it's not controlled, and so it's not very reliable, okay? I'm not going to go over the attendance policy. I will just tell you for a few minutes that when it comes to assignments, that you do have requirements and that work should be completed in a timely fashion, and that you should be aware of the fact that you will lose 10% for each day that your assignments are late. Here it is right here. Up to 7 days, a 10% penalty. Now, let me say this to you. Let's say, for example, if you lose 10% per day, and the total is 100 points. If you go 3 days, then you got your grade down to 70. Now, that's just for lateness. Now, let me explain something to you. If you read it very carefully, it says that a 10% is assessed up to 24 hours late, an additional 10 for each additional day. In some cases, such as late discussion posting, students may be asked to complete an alternate assignment. I don't do that, so don't even ask me about that. You'll just lose points. And then I want to tell you this. Discussions conclude at the end of the current week or module. Discussion posts made after that in the current week will not be accepted, or you'll get a 0. And I'll go more into details with that in a few minutes when I show you in the calendar what I'm talking about. Instructors, though, this is my discretion, may waive the late penalty or time frame in the case of extenuating circumstances. I don't do that, though, with discussion posts. Never. Don't do that with discussion posts. In some cases, well, we don't have labs or and things like that. But the bottom line is that you want to complete things in a timely fashion and get into the habit of that. this academic integrity thing gets to the ethical aspects, what we talked about, but the main thing we like to look at is plagiarism. Now, while we're on plagiarism, it tells you what plagiarism is. However, though, we use a source to check your papers called Grammarly. Jacob, are you familiar with Grammarly?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good, good. And so Grammarly is utilized to make sure that we know that you put your own critical thinking into it, and that I tell students that if you get a Grammarly percentage higher than 25%, you're going to lose that particular percentage in your grade. So let's say, for example, if your paper hits a 50% on Grammarly, then you're going to get lose 50% or half of your points, and that's going to be your grade, which is not a good thing. I used to give zeros and a chance to rewrite, but I'm not doing that anymore because it created a whole lot of extra work, and because I have so many students with 5 classes, I don't have the time to go back all the time and allow rewrites, and it's unfair to other students as well. So anyway, as a result, that's what ends up taking place. So that's really all I'm going to say about that. Now, let's go back to before I go to the week's module. I want to take you back to the first page. Now, here's instructor information, and here's what I want you to do. Pay attention to where I'm pointing to. It says students can feel free to call me, text me, or email me any hour of the day except the 25th hour of the day. Now, if you can't figure that one out, I'm not going to help you. I had students that say to me, one student asked me, why did you choose the 25th hour of the day? Well, another student who happened to be present at the time said, hey, do you know how many hours there are in a day? You know. So anyway, the bottom line is that I always work with my students. I have had students to contact me as late as 1 or 2 in the morning, and they're surprised I responded back that fast. Well, sometimes I'm up that late. Even if I don't, I will still, sometimes I'll get up in the course of the night, and I will check my phone to see if I have any messages, text, or either phone calls. Sometimes I will answer them, and sometimes they'll go to voicemail, but I will answer them right away. And then this is my reminder, again, I got to fix that about the research requirement, and then I remind you about the APA. Then I want to point out to you this. Open house, which is tonight, and then the live lectures will take place every other Thursday, beginning next week. So all you got to do is remember even weeks. The 2nd week, the 4th week, the 6th week, the 8th week, and the 10th week, there will be live lectures, and that's when we conduct those. Okay. So now let's take a look at Module 1, and let's see what we got here. For your assignments, it gives you your first written assignment. It says the correctional system is made up of 4 elements. 4 elements. You got jail, which is where you are held temporarily before you are sentenced, prison, possible probation, possible parole, and then you're going to have to explain in a 2-page paper each of these elements and how they fit into corrections of the system. And you're going to have citations and references and all those different things. Again, I'm going to give you I'm going to send you at the end of this also the resources that you'll have as far as the percentages for how much you'll miss for not doing these assignments correctly. Okay. Then your discussion involves punishment has been administered in several forms over the years and has changed with time. Society today justifies punishment for 5 main reasons. And you have these 5 here. And as you review these 5 reasons, you explain which justification you identify with most closely, and then explain why. Include some examples and so forth and so on. That's your post that you're involved with, okay? And then your quiz, 10 multiple choice questions, 10 minutes. 10 minutes. You'll have one opportunity to do this exam, and you will be alerted when you get close to the end of the time as well, okay? By starting this exam, you agree to abide by the academic policy. You acknowledge that your failure to do so could result in you being expelled. What does that mean? Well, if you look at it very carefully, you'll see you don't have your materials in front of you. If you're taking a test in my classroom or any classroom, unless it's an open book test. Besides, if you got 10 minutes and you don't complete it, one of the reasons you might not complete it is because you're looking up the answers. You shouldn't have to look up the answers. And so I am going to suggest to every student this: don't take the quiz until the end of the week, or either Saturday or Sunday. And the reason being is because you'll have a chance then to go through the materials that you already studied, and then you'll be prepared enough to do well on the quiz. Okay. Then let's go back to the lesson content. Okay, we start out with the objectives. I'm not going to go over those. And then we elaborate again on the assignments, that your reading assignment, an introduction to correction system, historical perspective. These are activities, and they're usually found in the section I'm in right now. And then it tells you your written assignment, again, involving study, research. And it already gave you the requirements for it, your discussion post as well. And then we're going to talk about an activity introducing your course project, and then, of course, your quiz. All right, so now let's go to. Now, here is what I mean by this, is that you're going to be given these little sections, and it's going to explain to you a little bit about the history of corrections systems. And that's when I say look at, like, for example, up here which says an introduction to correction system. So that's where you're going to find that in your class each week, under the, not under assignments, but under the section for lesson content. Okay. So this one tells you about the correctional system and its history. Then this next one, it gives you a historical perspective, and it goes all the way back from the Code of Hammurabi. Boy, I remember talking about this in law school. And it discusses how we've climbed and changed down through the years. Now, if you were to do this, this one is supposed to, there we go. It tells you at the top, and it tells you when the Code of Hammurabi was issued, and includes the concept of compensation. And then we moved into the Middle Ages, and then it tells you what that, all the way up to 20th century corrections. So you go over each of those different periods, and then you can find out information for yourself there. So that's why it's important for you to take a look at those things. You gain information. So now let's spend some time talking about the course project. Now, the course project, it says you'll select one of the 4 components of the correctional system. One of the 4, either parole, probation, jail, or prison. And you're going to contact a staff person at an agency. Schedule an interview so that you can learn firsthand what it is like to work in the field. In other words, you're going to interview either a probation officer, a parole officer, someone who works in the jails, or prison. Now, and you're going to follow all of these instructions. Now, it's going to be something that, and it tells you a warning, due to security and data privacy issues, some agencies may not be able to accommodate more than an interview. An in-person interview is optimal, but if you can't, a telephone interview will be acceptable with just letting me know that. Let me know that that's what you're going to do. But the idea is to meet with a particular person. Again, I know I have students that I have, but generally in the areas where you live, and some of you already have worked in some parts of this, you have an opportunity to go in to do these kinds of things. So anyway, you will have some assigned interview questions, but also explore interest to you. In addition to your interview, you should conduct research in the background of your agency and possible solutions, so forth and so on. So in this project, you're going to have the opportunity, as it says, to display your competency in your writing, your reading, and oral communication skills. So you will need to maintain a professional manner while conducting the interview. You'll also be demonstrating an effective use of grammar, sentence structure, so forth. So making yourself or presenting yourself as a professional, okay? Through your interview questions, you will develop a better understanding of working collaboratively with people from various backgrounds and perspectives, which we've already kind of talked about that. So now here are your due dates. Now, your final project is going to be due in Module 9. But the individual projects along the way will take place. Now, week 1, an introduction to the project and the field visit. Introduction to the project and the field visit. So now, once you begin to do that, you're setting up in your mind what you're going to do. Then you're going to select an agency and a contact person in week 2. And then your agency overview and background will be in week 4. Week 7, your interview report, and then 9, your final submission. In the modules you will have, and by the way, I'm going to give you some criteria for you to work with as well, okay? And then here's some requirements. I won't go through all of them, but interview, some ideas and questions, research into agency, ethics and professional responsibility, digital fluency. And notice all of these have to do pretty much with the transferable skill that we talked about a few minutes ago. And then each assignment leading up to final assignment is graded independently. And I'm going to give you the criteria in a little bit for that, okay? So don't wait till the last minute because you have a schedule here. Be aware of that, okay? Before you know it, you'll be at the end. And don't wait till the last minute to try to do those things. Some people do that, and they find themselves in a bad situation, okay? So now, let's get into our course calendar here. You always want to take a look at your course calendar. Your course calendar tells you everything. It tells you what your reading assignment is, what your initial post is, when your lectures, open houses take place, tells you your reply posts, and then it tells you your assignments. And then from this instance, see Module 1 for details on the course. We already went over that. Okay, so then you got week 2 and so forth. So, and let's see. So every week, you want to make sure that you look at it. We've got it filled out all the way to the end. It's already laid out for you. Every class, every time, every assignment, and anything that you need to do. But it's very important that you abide by these. And also, if you forget about the live lecture, where it's on the cover, but it's also given in here as well, and it tells you how you can get there as well. Okay. Any questions so far?
No, sir.
Oh, okay, all right. So now I'm going to go into, I want to check something, but I think I know the answer to it. I want to double check something. Let's see, let me go look at my, I want to see. Oh, it's below this, what I'm looking for. Okay, I want to see the grade center. I want to see if there is let's see, for week 1, okay, the discussion and the quiz. Yeah, so it's just the written. Yeah. Okay. But then when you get to week 2, then you got the writing, discussion, and then you got the course project. So there's really no written portion for the project, but you know what you need to do this week to get going. And what we're doing is just trying to get you to moving forward. Now, let me take you and show you. This is the rubric that I'm going to send you for your written assignments. This has nothing to do with the project. And it tells you, like, for example, in Module 1, elements of the correctional center, you get 4 points for accurately identifying the 4 components. Okay? You get 16 points for detailing each component with specific notations as to how they fit into the correction system, and then your citations and reference for a total of 25 points. And of course, so you also have to be aware that your paper, you will also lose points if it's not the adequate size. That goes in this section within the 5 points. So you can lose 2 points for not having your assignments correctly written, and you can lose 2 points for not doing research, which is not included in here. That's why I mentioned to you, make sure that you research as well. But this is the raw deal here. Assuming that you've done your research and that your paper is the proper length, this is what it boils down to in terms of the content, or what I'm going to be looking at for each assignment. And there's one for every week. Same thing. All of them equal 25 points. If you look at page 2, same thing, 25 points. And it goes every week. You'll have one of these every week. Okay? Now, so now I'm going to show you something that, let's go back to this. So that's, anyway, I'm going to be sending you that as well. But now I want to share something with you. I want to share this with you. Actually, I don't want to share the screen. I want to stop sharing. I want to share. I want to share. Yeah, I want to share a file. Okay, give me a minute. Because I have just one that I want to show you. And then I'm going to send you the others. Thought I had uploaded it, but I didn't. Let's see. Here we go. Okay. And so this is really an idea of what you're going to be doing in week 2. And anyway, I can't get I can make it fit. But anyway, you're going to receive for week 2 and for all the other weeks this as well. I'm going to be sending this to you in an email in just a few minutes after we finish this session. And it's going to tell you everything that you need to do to complete those assignments. So I didn't know it was going to turn sideways like that. Let's see if I can. Sometimes they let me flip them over. That's okay. I'll go back to it. Anyway, I'm going to take you back. Let's go back and let's get rid of that. Okay. So now, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, that's really what I wanted to tell you. But now I want to conclude by taking the next maybe 8 minutes or so to explain to you why I say in my each of my announcements that adversity is a springboard to success. I have been through a lot of things in life, but here's what launched my career into the field of criminal justice and specifically becoming a lawyer. When I was 7 years old, my dad was murdered, and he was murdered in a domestic situation in our home. I had 5 younger sisters at the time. We were in a bedroom, and a fight broke out between my dad and this guy who turned out to be my mother's boyfriend. He was a roomer in the house, and so he literally took out a knife and stabbed my dad in the forehead in front of us kids. He did not go to jail on a legal technicality. He continued to live with us, and my mother was assaulted on a daily basis almost after that by him. So I grew up in a home of domestic violence where I had to take care of her oftentimes. And this went on for years until when I was 13 years old. By this time, he had fathered 2 more kids by my mother, and so I had 7 younger sisters. Well, in 1963, he murdered her, not in front of us, but he murdered her. And that left 7 kids and 1 boy who was 13, me, without a mother or father. We had to move from Indiana back to Illinois, stayed with an aunt where we had problems with her. She didn't want us really there. And then another aunt took us and put us in the home where we stayed. Well, while living in that home, her husband, my aunt's husband, I found out he wasn't right. He wanted me to take his last name, and I didn't want to take his last name because I wanted to carry on my dad's last name. But I would find out that he actually was tampering with my sisters. Really bad scenario. Well, anyway, I ran into so many problems, and by the time I was 14 years old, I would always ask people, about the whole situation that happened with my mother and father, why this guy didn't go to jail, and so forth. Well, with the second time when he killed my mother, they said he was sentenced to 10 years. But then it was brought to my attention that 10 years meant 5 under the way the criminal justice system was at that time in 1963 in Illinois. And that probably for good behavior in prison, that he would serve 3 1/2 total years. By this time, I'm 14 years old, and I'm very, very distraught about the whole thing. And someone brings to my attention that, well, that's just the way the legal system works. And I said, who's in charge of this? And they said, these people called attorneys or lawyers. Well, I'm one of these kind of people that whenever something bothers me, I go find out more information. So I did. I went to a librarian at our school, and I asked her for a book on lawyers or attorneys, and they had one little small book, and I read it from cover to cover in one night. The next day, anybody I met after that, I said to them, my name is Richard Wright, and I says, and I'm going to be a lawyer. Well, my 14-year journey took me through college, working. My first job right out of high school was in the mailroom of a big law firm where I told the lawyers there that I was going to be a lawyer. They made me then a file clerk over a period of time, and then I became a law librarian, and then they found out I knew how to research, and they made me into what's called a law clerk, which they call a paralegal. By this time, I graduated and was accepted in the Northwestern University School of Law. And so then in 1978, which would have been 14 years after the time when I started telling people I was going to be a lawyer, I walked out of that law school, and you saw in my information that I provided to you in the student lounge a picture of me getting my law degree. And so I accomplished my goal. And one of the first things I did was become a criminal defense lawyer, which kind of puzzled people. But there was a person who worked in the field who suggested if I wanted to learn how the system worked, that I would do that. And I was good. I was able to let the people know I represented that what had happened. And so I was pretty successful with juries especially. I had no problems with jurors at all, none at all. I did pretty well, pretty successful. And then I found myself at one point becoming a prosecutor for a village, and then a part-time police officer, and dealt with corruption in the police department by becoming an internal affairs investigator in that department, and a part-time police officer as well. So I did all of that, and then I went into seminary, 91 to 93, and became a minister, and then 2000, I retired from being a lawyer to pursue a career in ministry. And then I taught special education for a few years, dealing with students that are pretty tough. And then I found myself doing other things at the same time. And then ultimately in 2011, I would find myself at Rasmussen College, starting out as a teacher in business law for one quarter rather. They found out that I didn't want that. I wanted criminal justice. And since that time, I've been in criminal justice where I am. And so this is kind of like a thumbnail sketch background as to why I say adversity is the springboard to success. I didn't let what happened turned me in a direction that some people thought I would go in. I took that adversity and used it as a springboard to success. I was very successful. I've never applied for a job that I didn't have the opportunity to turn down. And so I am now here and committed to producing professional, ethical, and educational criminal justice professionals. And that's why I am so committed and adamant. It's probably why somebody said, well, you do a lot of extra stuff. I said, it's because I have a life commitment to criminal justice. The criminal justice system needs to be fixed. I think that it can be fixed with good people, and that's my story. So I like to share that with my students so you can understand where I'm coming from and who I am, and that feel free anytime you have any issues or concerns or questions to reach out to me. I've already given the parameters about that. And so for the next 11 weeks, we will be going through this as a team, me guiding you, and you as a teammate, each of your classmates will be able to receive information that will help you to be successful in your desires to reach the goal of being a really good criminal justice professional. And that's about it. So it's about 9:31, so I'm right at the time that I said we were going to end. And so Any questions or comments, Jacob?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. So anyway, I'm going to say good night. And next week, we will have a lecture, and then I will be going over the materials. And then check your email, and you'll be receiving the email that I said I was going to send you in about maybe the next 5 or 10 minutes. I will also be sending an archive of this lecture sometime tonight or either probably tomorrow as well. So I'm going to say good night.